I confess. My darkest cheating secret to my husband. It's been a few weeks since I wrote you anything, but I had to tell you that I did something horrible. I still can't tell you why I did it. It was so bad. It's the worst thing I've ever done in my life. It started a couple months ago. Well, maybe a year ago. But that would be the beginning. I started spending more time at work with Tony. I've mentioned him before in my notes. I think I said I was beyond thrilled when he said he wanted to spend time with me outside of work. I loved spending time with him. He's handsome and he liked me. God, I should have taken that as a warning instead of being happy about it. Anyway, he gave me a flower, a really nice back massage, and some of my favorite candy. I was so pleased that he knew what my favorite candies were. Harry must have forgotten. When we first got married, he knew everything about me. But now he doesn't even remember my birthday. When I mentioned that he forgot, he let me know that he didn't think it was important, or that his job was more important. I hate to think what will happen when our next anniversary comes around. Getting back to Tony, I will say that he was constantly complimenting me, telling me how beautiful I looked, how well this or that dress went well with my colors. I started dressing up for him. He smiled when I wore that tight outfit 3 weeks ago. I think it was my last outing, so short it was. A guy hadn't smiled at me like that in over a year. Maybe we were having an emotional affair, though I wouldn't have said so until Friday night. I'd never lied to Harry about it, not counting last Friday. I hadn't been sneaking off to Tony's or anything like that. Harry just didn't seem to notice or care that I was spending more time with another man than I should. But Friday night was the worst. God, I still can't believe I actually did it. As soon as I got home, I cried for an hour. It was one of those times when I'm glad Harry was at work on a Sunday night. The first thing I did wrong was lie to Harry about where I was going. I told him I had to go out of town for a work-sponsored vacation. There was actually one such party this weekend, and if he happened to ask anyone about it, they would have told him there was one. Only a few people go to them, so most people he could talk to about it wouldn't know if I went or not. What bothers me now is that I didn't feel guilty about packing my suitcase, putting a couple sexy nightgowns in it. Nor did I feel guilty when Tony pulled up in front of the house and I said goodbye to my husband. After all, Harry hadn't been fulfilling my love needs lately, and a woman needs something sometimes. We drove to a nice spa hotel that had just opened 3 hours out of town. He checked us into a room, which wasn't too bad since a lot of unmarried couples stay in hotels these days. We went to the room and got changed and then headed out for dinner. The hotel has a very nice nautical-themed restaurant. There are videos of sea creatures hanging on the walls, as well as several different shaped aquariums. I wouldn't mind going there with Harry sometime, but the memories of what I did there would ruin my feelings for the place. We went back to the room and relaxed with a glass of wine and then danced to one of my favorite songs. We kissed before the song was even over. I didn't even have time to realize anything. We hadn't kissed before, not even when he suggested we go out of town to a new hotel he'd heard about. Of course, I hinted that I could use a break from my husband for the weekend. The short kiss turned into a longer kiss and then into passionate kisses. I couldn't believe I wanted this. And from the way he responded to my kisses, he felt the same way. That turned me on even more. Soon I was topless. I don't remember how it happened, but I do remember reaching behind him to unhook my bra. He looked at my breasts with lust and admiration. I knew he really liked me, and I could tell he really thought my breasts were special. That's what Harry used to do, but not anymore. Tell me how special, how neat, how manly my breasts were. I don't know how long we danced, but he went from kissing me to licking my neck and looking at me with love and lust. At least something akin to love. I loved that attention, and his kisses felt so good. I wanted more. After a while, I did something I was ashamed of today. We danced around a chair, I crouched down and reached for his waist. Pulling him closer, I unzipped the zipper on his pants. I looked over his body. After a few moments, he lifted me up and we danced hand in hand and slowly walked to the bed. He placed me on the bed and began to slowly remove his clothes. God, why didn't I think of Harry? Why didn't my conscience plague me? I knew it was wrong. It hadn't even occurred to me all this time. But why? We ended up doing almost everything two people can do together. We had sex 3 times. It was good. I think I would have felt better if it wasn't so good, but it was. It was like he was making love to me. Only the love didn't have much to do with what we were doing. You could say it was infatuation, but not love. He knew how to pleasure a woman, and he did. I haven't had sex like that in, like, 100 years. I don't know how long, but too long. It wasn't until we were almost done that my conscience suddenly kicked in. I started to feel bad. I don't know why it arose at that moment. We relaxed and laid down next to each other. I wasn't sure how I should react. I didn't feel like cuddling, and I wasn't likely to do so even if I felt good about what I had done. So I just laid there. After saying something like, "It's good that he needs it too, and that he hasn't had sex in months or anything like that in years," he went to bed. I felt like crying. I couldn't understand why I had allowed myself to do that to him and why it was suddenly bothering me. Finally, I fell asleep. The next morning, I woke up and quickly got dressed before he could do anything. We went to breakfast where I said that since we were at a spa hotel, I wanted to try everything they had. I was surprised, but he agreed, saying that we were here on vacation after all, even if it was only for 2 nights. All day I had been thinking of things to do so I wouldn't be alone in the room with him. Some of it was good. The massage was wonderful, and I almost forgot I wasn't there with Harry. Before dinner, we went swimming. They have 2 pools. One was right next to the restaurant and was supposed to look like a lagoon with rock waterfalls and sand. But I don't think it looked that much like a real lagoon. After we were done, I decided to take a shower to wash off the chlorine. I should have known he would join me. I was rinsing my hair, dipping my face into the water, when I heard the door open and someone walked in. I know I was scared, and for a second I wondered who it was. But he said, "That's a nice sight. I've always liked your body through your skirt." He started stroking my body, and I jumped again when I felt his touch. He said, "Oh, I didn't mean to scare you, but I couldn't resist touching you." At those words, I was glad he hadn't tried to have sex the night before. I also realized that I should have told him that I was done and wanted to go home, but it would have seemed like hypocrisy to tell him that I didn't want him to touch me after everything we'd done. After everything I did the night before. Or teasing him because, having gotten what I wanted, I didn't want him anymore. After all, the room had been paid for and he wouldn't be able to get his money back. He'd be justifiably pissed off after I'd promised him a whole weekend. He said, "You're so beautiful." I thought, oh dear, I hope he didn't leave any kisses. After drying off, we got dressed and went to dinner. Afterward, we watched TV and I changed into the least sexy outfit I owned to go to bed. The next morning, we had breakfast and went back to the room where we had another sex session. Maybe I wanted it because I couldn't think of an excuse that didn't sound weird or made up. But I was able to tell him that I didn't want to this time, that we should have been more careful on Friday night. He said, "It's probably too late, but okay. There are other places to have sex." I hurriedly got dressed, and he checked out shortly thereafter. On the way home, we stopped for lunch, and he thanked me for a great weekend. It was just what he needed. He wanted to make plans for another trip, but I told him I didn't want to do it again. That sounded faster and sharper than I wanted, so I explained that it was hard for me to get away even for a weekend, and that I hated lying to my husband. Yes, he can be a pain, but he doesn't deserve to be lied to like that, and I don't like lying to anyone. Besides, I figured he would figure it out sooner or later on his own. After all, he wasn't stupid. I felt guilty for lying, like I said. I didn't like lying, but it wasn't fiction. I don't like lying, and Harry didn't deserve it, and he wasn't stupid. Well, not usually. Sometimes he did stupid things, like spending too much time at work. So I thanked Tony for a good weekend, using the same words he did, but I wasn't sure I'd do it at work like Tony suggested. It was too easy to get caught there. It would spoil my repetition, so I added Tony's words. He nodded at first, saying that the danger of being caught would add to the thrill, but that I was right. I left him with a promise to meet again when I was horny and wanted to chat. He didn't seem to notice that I was no longer as cheerful as I had been on the way upstairs. He was relaxed and chipper even when I turned down the job. He said we could work on it. I got home and quickly hung up my clothes. That is, the things that were still clean. I found that in my hurry to pack, I had tossed things aside and dropped a couple of nightgowns on the closet floor. I hadn't noticed this on Friday, and I had to go through my underwear drawer all over again. They were scattered everywhere. I must have been in too much of a hurry on Friday. After that, I showered 3 times. I couldn't get rid of the smell of him. I realized it must be psychosomatic, but I could still smell him after one time, so I thought a few showers might make my subconscious stop thinking I could smell him. It happened later that day. When Harry got home, he asked why I was nervous and not relaxed after the weekend I had spent relaxing. I said that the weekend wasn't as relaxing as advertised and that I almost had an accident. I lied again. For someone who doesn't like to do that, I lied a lot. And now it will stop, except maybe one more. I'll try to make it up to Harry for what I did. Of course, he'll never know, but I have to do it. Starting tonight, after I'm done here, I'll put on my sexiest nightgown and make love to him. The last 6 weeks have been something out of the ordinary. And it all ended last night when Harry made love to me. It was so wonderful. I couldn't help it. I kept comparing him to Tony. Even though Tony knew a couple things that Harry didn't, Harry did everything I liked. He was wonderful. It wasn't, I'm using that word again, sex like with Tony. It was lovemaking. It was so pleasurable. I love him, and he loves me. I know it again. I really wasn't sure if he still loved me, but he does. I made love to him. Starting the night I came back from that weekend. I dressed in that pink and white outfit he loves so much. I realized I hadn't worn it in over a year. When he saw what I was wearing, his eyes widened. It was like he couldn't believe it. I did a little model dance so he could see me from the back. He likes the lingerie that comes with the set. I leaned forward a little to make sure he could see everything clearly. When I turned to face him, his eyes were full of desire. When I first entered the room from the bathroom, there was a look of disappointment or anger on his face, but it only lasted a second or two. I swayed my hips as I walked toward him, and when I was a foot in front of him, I turned and bent over again. I heard his breathing quicken. Turning around, I took 2 steps forward and undid his belt, zipper, and button. I pulled down both his pants and underwear. Then I pushed him onto the bed. Next, we made love. Then I pretended I was going to fall asleep. I noticed a change in my husband a couple days after I got back from the weekend with Tony. I still can't believe I let myself go with him. Harry was going to work. He and I have our usual routine. He gets dressed and I go feed our 2 dogs. I usually come back to see him off. Although we don't kiss anymore, when he leaves, I make sure to come over. By the time I go outside, he's done what he needs to do and all he has to do is get dressed. I came back that day, and when I headed down the hallway to see where he was, he hurried out of the bedroom. "Aren't you going to feed the dogs?" "I already fed them." "Oops, I was probably picking up too much hair. Now I'm going to be late." Usually when I get back to the house, he's already standing at the door, but I don't think he was that late. I just shook my head and stepped aside. I said, "Have a good day." "Maybe I will. Yeah, you too." He looked upset when he said that last word. And then I wondered if I had been inconsiderate of him. If he was sitting there thinking about something, whatever it was, it had to be bothering him a lot. I thought about writing something in my journal, so I walked over to the dresser and opened the box I keep my journal in. It's a beautiful box that Harry gave me before we got married. He's always been thoughtful except for the last few months. Maybe over a year if you think about it. He gave me a small lock, but I never use it. The lock is supposed to be like one of those old padlocks, but I think it's too small to be like one of those. I like the box, though. I heard the sound of a car and remembered that I had to go to work, and if I wrote anything in the diary, I'd be late. Over the next few days, I noticed that he was sad or angry, or maybe both. I wondered if it was work or if something was wrong with his parents. Usually he would tell me about it, but now I don't think he would. Like I said, I've been making love to him 3 or 4 times a week, trying to make it up to him. Finally, last night, he said, "Okay, what's going on?" I tried to look puzzled. "You've been making love to me and doing other things to me for weeks now. You act like you're trying to fix something, but you won't say what it is." I know my emotions showed on my face for a second or so, and I prayed he didn't notice. I said, "You're trying to accuse me of something." He looked at me like he was expecting something. "It's because of the way I've been treating you lately. I've been, stupid, and I regret it. I love you, and I don't want to treat you badly." He nodded and said, "Sometimes you've been like that, and sometimes I've been an asshole. I realize I work too much. I've become a workaholic without wanting to. I know I've ignored you and even avoided you. I'm sorry for that." I hugged him. He kissed me and said, "Everything will change from tonight." I tried to grab his body, but he pulled away and said, "No. It's my turn. I'm going to make love to you. It's been too long since I've done that. I've been too immersed in work and taking you for granted. It's not that I stopped loving you, I just felt like you would always be there for me and I didn't have to do anything." He shook his head and said, "That was wrong." I nodded for him to make love to me, and he did. Like I said when I started this post, everything was great. Except there were 2 things that still make me wonder. After he made love to me, afterward I told him it was the best thing I'd ever done. Oops, again, I have to be careful what I say. But I hope he thought I meant all the times we made love. He smiled his warm smile back. Finally, he surprised me by saying, "And since we haven't gone anywhere lately, I've booked a room for us at a new hotel." When he said that, my heart sank, and I stopped breathing. He had to know, I thought. But the hotel he was talking about had a different name and was in a city in a different direction. I started breathing again, and he smiled when he saw my reaction. "We could go for 3 days over the weekend, or maybe 4 would be better, but no longer than that. We're really busy at work. That's all the time I can spare right now." I said that would be wonderful. It could be like a second honeymoon. He smiled again, and we cuddled until we fell asleep. In the morning, I woke up very satisfied. He wanted another round, and I didn't mind. So I guess it's going to get a lot better. And at least I got something good out of being with Tony that weekend. It was wrong and bad, but I'm glad something came out of it. Next time I see Tony, I'm going to tell him that Harry and I have worked things out and our relationship is back on track. So no more seeing each other, much less having sex, ever. I have to go through my nightgowns one more time. This time, I think I'll meet him at the door in that black outfit with the white stripes. He likes it too. The top covers my breasts, but he can see them well enough to discern. The end! Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.